Hey everybody, Player Chaos here once more with Let's Play Victoria 2, Heart of Darkness. This is going to be replacing EU4, I'm probably going to flip between the two, and have like Paradox Tuesdays or something like that, but we'll see what happens. Victoria 2 is kind of a semi-sequel to EU in a sense. Well, I guess European as I was going to call it. The game starts in 1836 and goes through to 1936. It's one of the shorter Paradox games in the series. The shortest being Hearts of Iron. I think Hearts of Iron is about 20 odd years. Future me, you'll put in like an edit somewhere just telling you how long it is. But this one goes for 100 years. EU4 is about 370 something. 376, I think it was? Yeah. And Crusader Kings, well, that keeps getting longer because he's gone back to Charlemagne. But anyway, Victoria 2 covers the age of liberalism, the age of the Industrial Revolution. Essentially Victorian era, Victorian England, for God's sake. So, as you might guess, there's a lot of things happen this age. We have the British Empire, go straight from sunrise to sunset. We have the rise of Germany, the rise of Austria-Hungary, the rise of the Soviet Union, the end of the Ottoman Empire. Spain loses its price of major power. India becomes, well, British. China becomes China. Japan becomes a major power. And the United States begins its manifest destiny. So, you might be thinking, well, what are you going to do? Well, considering the amount of stuff that happens in this age, I think the best nation to begin with to use to show you how it looks is the USA. Or the USA, as people might call it. The USA to begin with isn't actually that powerful a nation. It's actually a secondary power to begin the game, apparently. Yeah, actually it's kind of interesting. That's different. But, bearing that in mind, the USA quickly rises through the ranks. You'll see that the USA, you don't really need to do a lot to gain in power. It is a very noob-friendly nation. I mean, I'm not a pro at this game. I play a lot. I mean, you can see like the Russian Empire, the United Kingdom, sort of China. There it is, China. Windows of China. I do like playing this game a lot, and there's a lot of stuff to cover. So I'm gonna play the USA, and we're gonna try and get a first playthrough going. So, this episode is going to be like episode 0, it's going to go over what I do in the nation, and explain all the stuff you have to know, so let's get into it. Bear in mind, this is also a very old game. It's like 2006, future me, put in there somewhere telling us how old it is, please. But there's a lot about this game to learn. I don't know it all. I mean, I think that the pro of this game, as far as I'm aware, is Shenra, and I don't think he understands everything. But whatever the case. So, first things first, your views, they're kind of to explain themselves, but we're going to stick to political for most of the game, because political is actually probably the best for me. So, let's start with the tabs up here, shall we? First off, we have the... oh, we're great power, actually. So, we start with the production tab. This is the age of cottage industry. Through that, you can build factories and the like. Factories give you a variety of benefits. For instance, they give you money, they give you a product by using the raw materials. They can also give you other benefits, like, well, some of these are obviously consumer goods, like we've got, let's find one. Well, fabrics, lumber, that sort of thing. There's also the not quite military, but not quite commercial stuff of like clippers, steamers, machine parts, that kind of thing. And then there's the military grade stuff: tanks, airplanes, weaponry, ammunition, that kind of thing. You can, if you have it built here, it will eventually get people to man it. That being said, your nation lives and dies in a lot of ways by its industry, just financially. I mean, I don't have a lot of states to work with right now. I have 4 out of a possible... well, I have 4 states. We'll explain states later on. But every state you get gives you more people to work with, and sometimes you really do want to try and get along, you know, that sort of thing. You can invest in other nations to do the same thing. It can help you out. It's production, which gives you an overview of what your nation is making, so you can see there. I believe it gives you primary goods. And there's loads of things from there, so you can get an idea like, okay, we're making 0.5 canned food a day, which isn't bad. We're making less than less than Oh god, that takes what, 100? 1,000 days makes 2 artillery pieces. Wow. We really need to get that industry up. This is the navy. Like, you'll see, like, some of this is locked. You need to actually start unlocking some of the stuff as you go through the game. Like, we will get tanks by the end of the game. We'll get airplanes. We'll get radios, that sort of thing. There are some things we'll just make because we'll get the land, like tea, coffee, opium, that sort of thing. And then you get projects, which are your members of your population are proposing plans to make this. So there's a plan for New York to get railroads. The amount it needs funding. Like, we can fund it ourselves to help them out, or we can leave them to fund it. So also what materials they need to collect and the investors. So yeah, that's a way you can play your population. You also have a budget. This should explain itself. But this is probably the most important part, because this is how much money you have. Here you have your stratas, the poor, the middle, and the rich. You can tax them however you want, so you can go like up to the hilt and just, you know, get, oh god, doesn't make much profit. And you can like force these guys to move out. Bear in mind that the more you tax someone, or the less you tax someone, the more likely they are to promote or just change what population type they are. Slaves don't give you any taxes at all, but they don't get a vote, but they don't give you anything, but they don't ask for anything. So it's either or, and we're America right now. Well, we are the Americans, so we have a big need to deal with that. Down here you have amount of money you'll make from gold or precious metals, whatever you like. Goes straight to money, like gold mines from like in EU4, and this is how much total income I'm making, which isn't a lot. Down here you have your loans, like loans taken and loans given. Loans will be taken and given automatically, and other nations will actually take loans from you without you asking, which is it's a nice idea. You can potentially make you more money. Over here you have your stockpiles of material of goods. So you have your expenditures. This is our stockpile for the army, for the navy, and for the construction projects. We kind of want to put this one down because we're not going to spend that much on navy. Ooh, that's kind of nice actually. This is our army, which you can see there gives us our expenditure, and construction projects. We haven't got any going. Down here you have your education. Education plays a major role in this game, so and it affects how much resource point you get. We'll get onto that later, but I do recommend putting this as high as you can. Same with administration, but this affects getting money in. It's basically taxes and the like. Social spending is like pensions, employment subsidies, factory subsidies, the like. And military spending explains itself. How much you're spending on your soldiers and your officers. Right now we can max it out, go to the bottom. Either way, I actually do want to max it out, and that's how much you're spending so far. Now, going from that, we're losing 56 pounds a day. But we can impose a tariff, or take away a tariff. When a good is made, it's put onto an internal market within the nation, and then it goes between the population types, go, okay, I want that, I'll buy it off you. If it fails there, it goes into one of two separate markets, depending on what's going on. It'll either go into a market of a sphere of influence, which I'll explain later, or on the world market. If it goes in the world market, the tariffs are applied. If you knock it down, goods are going on the market become goods going on the market become cheaper, which kind of subsidizes imports of goods because they're cheaper to get in. If you put it higher, it emphasizes it. What's what I'm looking for? It I can't remember what the word is. It actually I can't remember what the word is. Someone usually I'll put like an edit here, so what word okay. But it'll make goods more expensive, so it'll make it so you have a bigger export market but a smaller import market, which can be helpful. So we actually want to do this enough just to balance it out, and we can't, so we're not going to have military spending. Sorry, army. These all have their own benefits, like this is paying our clergy, we'll explain later. This pays bureaucrats, this pays your soldiers and your officers, which is different from this one. But these all affect small things. That's like a brief overview, but this is kind of something I will be coming back and forth from. Now we're going to the most important part of this game. Technology. Technology is a very, very important part of this game. Not only do you get, so looking at it from an EU4 point of view. In EU4 you have 3 texts to go through. Your military, your admin, and your diplomacy, and then you had your ideas on top of that. In this, you have 5 branches of research: your army techs, your navy techs, your commercial techs, your culture techs, and your industry techs. These are more ideas within the nation. So if we're on commerce, we have ideas of what we want to do. Like, we want to start private banks. Okay, fine, go private banks. And then they work from there. They'll put in research points. We're currently making 8.6 a day based on certain benefits. And then it'll work through until it's got it finished. So go on culture. However, there are other things you can get. Like, if we go on to breech-loaded rifles, you'll see down here there are inventions, these things. These give their own benefits as well. So as soon as you research it, you get the benefit. We can get guards and then come up with foots too. And later on we have a chance of getting colonial negotiations and breech-loaded rifle armament, which give their own benefits. There are other side effects as well. Like, if we get, I think it's inorganic chemistry. Yeah, if we get some inventions, they have a side effect. So let's say you get nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin actually helps your mining efficiency, which can make it so you can get more out of your mines, meaning you can have less miners. I hope this is kind of big, but this is kind of one of the major things to go with, because you want to try and balance out your tech so you keep up. We also have an administration. There are several in the game. We are a business, schools, and tycoon capitalism administration, which means our army, our navy suffers, but our commerce, our culture, and our industry prosper. So we're better off researching these 3. Well, where's that researching these? I actually am going to start a culture tech. I'll do positivism. So we're going to get education efficiency, which helps us get a more literate nation. Shows you literacy up here. And colonial migration, which helps people migrate to colonies and the like. It's going to take us until 1838. As you can see here, you have your research point value. We're currently making 8.6, but this is based on several modifiers, like how many clergy you have, which you can get up to 2% is optimal. Clerks in the nation, because we're a great power. Our literacy, and that gives us our base. Then it's multiplied by other things like our plurality, which is our memory of liberty. In technology, and then after that it gives you your points. Literacy is increased by having your clergyman in the states. We'll go on to that in a bit. But the easiest way to get more research points is to go with the philosophy tree, and these give you some benefits. Generally speaking, these all explain themselves. They all have like an idea, like they all have a theme or something. It's like the army doctrine gives you ideas like, these are all defensive, like digging, fort levels, that sort of thing. This is all weaponry, so these are all mostly to do with your guys. This is all artillery based. This is all to do with your organisation, and this is to do with your leadership and your morale and tactics and such. Then, so on and so forth. They all have a theme, so when you see what that theme is, you can kind of work with that. I think the only one that doesn't really have a theme... actually there isn't really one. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. There are different administration types. You can change it while you do that, but you pay a penalty to do so. So I honestly just prefer staying with this until the pros are outweighed by the cons. And because of our benefits, there isn't really a lot that can outweigh the benefits. Like, we can research these 3 faster than these 2. Well, we're losing 20% in exchange for 30%, well, 25% bonus. So it's going to be very late when that becomes different, I guess. Moving on from that, we have the easiest tab to explain. Oh boy, politics. Politics is a very simple thing. Over here you have your national value, which is liberty. So we have better mobilization size and mobilization impacts and like. This is basically when you mobilize your army, you mobilize your populace to fight, you get a bigger force and whatnot. It has less of an effect. Our election is in 4 years' time. Plurality, over here you have consciousness as well. These 2 are linked. It's like the higher your consciousness goes, the higher your plurality will go. Plurality maxes out 100%, and it's kind of like consciousness is how aware people are, like how much they aspire. Like a craftsman will dream of being a clerk. Okay, so he tries to be a clerk. He wants to advance himself, make himself more important, like liberalise and that sort of thing. Plurality sticks around. Plurality is your memory of liberty, so he'll always remember that he wanted to be a clerk. It's like that sort of thing. It's this is kind of more important than this. Here you also have revanchism, which is revenge. If you lose a core to someone, then this is like your nation is more willing to go to war with them and will give you more benefits for doing so. You also have an explanation. You also have your parties here. The three parties we have at the start are based on ideology, so we have conservatives, we have liberals, and we have reactionaries. Generally speaking, they all give you their own benefits. I can't explain to save my life, so yeah. And you can also force an election to be held early. Like, I can hold one now. We're probably, judging on that, we look like we're going to get around. We're going to get a democratic victory, easy. And yes, this is before the two-party system came into force. Heyo! Down here you have your ideologies. Most people are liberal voters. Most people in the nation are conservative. Like over here we have, if you look, there's a big difference. Like this is 31% liberal and 9% reactionary. Here we have 10% reactionary and 23% liberal. So these two will barely ever match unless you have everyone voting. Which way we come over to our reforms. Reforms are kind of, well, I say social change, but that's kind of literally what they are. They are changes to the system. Like, political reforms more affect how people vote and why they vote, if they can meet up, what the voting system is, that sort of thing. They are very, very, very this stuff is more important than this stuff when it comes to voting. But this stuff affects your nation. This is more the benefits people have that are in your nation. Like how many hours they have to work in a day before they get paid. Or, they're allowed to work. If they have a minimum wage, safety regulations in the place, that sort of thing. Generally speaking, these will be changed before these. The higher your consciousness is, the more people want social change. And if they're liberal, they will want social change again. So, you kind of want to balance it, because liberals want social change, reactionaries want to go back to how it used to be. So if you want to go to, like, a monarchy, for instance, you're better off using reactionaries to try and roll back political changes. It's how you get some of the more unique, we'll say, what are they called? National types, whatever you want to call them. Which I can see why. Like, if you want to do a fascist dictatorship, then that's how you do it. You go through reactionaries and fascists. So just outlaw voting. There you go, done. You also have your movements, which are like, we want like a free nation, or we want social change, that sort of thing. So these all come up every so often. It gives you an idea of what they are. Decisions are important decisions you can make during the game. These all vary depending on what you are or what type of power you are. But you can only get these if you're at least a secondary power, at most a great power. So you can't get these if you're a civilized nation. We'll go into those later. But they vary between nation to nation. Some nations don't have any, which is kind of annoying. But there's a lot of things to do here. I forget what I need for you. Romanticism, okay. Oh, really? Text exists? Huh. So that is like, okay, that's okay, that's not what I thought it was. And release nations, just what it says in the tin, that's just release nations. We can release Bank, we can release Canada, we can release Cherokee, we can release New England, that sort of thing. These will either come out as dominions or satellites. Dominions are colonial nations that are overseas that will take care of the place for you, free up some colonial power. Satellites are nations you free up that just take control of a place for you. Dominions are, I don't want to say better, but they are more useful if you're trying to free up colonial points quickly. Right, moving on, we have population. Again, one of the more important tabs in the game. This goes over your population and tells you what you have, so gives you an idea what they are. We have our 9 population types here. I think it's 9, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 pop types, sorry. Just a quick overview of what they are. We have our aristocrats, who are our landowners. We have artisans, who will make goods if you don't have craftsmen to do, if you don't have factories and craftsmen to do so. But these, whilst craftsmen will do it from a factory, they will stick to a certain product. Artisans do it based on what is expensive at the moment. So if you want them to make artillery pieces, for instance, then artillery pieces better be worth a lot on the market. It's a bit of an odd system, but this is why craftsmen are better than artisans. You have your bureaucrats, who are basically like your administrators. You have your capitalists. If you don't know what capitalists are, don't worry. Clergymen, priests, religious folk, they also spread literacy, so it's worth getting a couple of these guys to raise your literacy in some of your states. So, you know, bank work for it. Clerks who help out in your factories, craftsmen who work in said factories, farmers and labourers, they explain themselves. Labourers tend to be more mining intensive, these tend to be farming intensive. Officers who give you leadership points so you can have officers. Slaves, I hope I don't have to explain what they are. Okay, slaves are actually unique. They have no needs. They are always considered to have their life needs fulfilled, but they never pay taxes. In a pop comparison between slaves, labourers, and miners, slaves do more, but they don't give you as much back. It's worth noting as well. One of the things, if you don't outlaw slavery, well, one of the big debates in this era is slavery. So you will see like the Confederate States of America rise up, and soldiers, because we all know what soldiers are. I will point out that these population types can change. Like you can go from being an artisan to a craftsman, but there are certain requirements. We also have over here our national focus is national foci, which lets you say what you want to do in the province. So let's say New York. We want the state of New York to get more clergy. So now over time, these guys are going to get more clergy in the population. We currently have clergymen 0.7% here. If you get up to, I think it was 4%, that's when you get your fastest literacy gain there. Now, I don't know how you tell what literacy is in the province. That's going to be fun itself. We're also going to send one to Pennsylvania. Thank you, Pennsylvania, for volunteering. And that should give us our literacy gain. So, that's that tab. You can also see like an idea of what they are here. We're mostly Catholic and we're mostly Protestant. We have some Catholics here. There's somewhere we can see what the state religion is, and I don't know what that affects. Ooh, what's this? It seems like a lot of people are converting to Protestantism. So, yay! You'll see what nationality they are. This plays into things in politics. No? Is it in diplomacy? Sorry about this, folks, and I'm skipping ahead. Yes, okay, there we go. So that also gives you like a six cultures. Trade explains itself. It's literally what you're buying and selling. You can leave this up to the AI, and it'll deal what it can as best as it can for you, or you can manually operate it yourself. I'm not going to be fiddling around too much with this. I know I have an idea what I want to do, but I'm not going to touch it for now unless I really have to. But they give you an idea of what the price is. So over the last 36 months, the price of ammunition hasn't changed because no one's been using it because the game hasn't been running. And you can actually set a stockpile. So I want to have a decent stockpile of ammo. So we're going to bring that up to about 2.17. It'll change that if it needs to, but you know, it generally does a good job on its own. Right, but you also hear what your top exports and imports are. Our top exports are lumber, grain, and cotton. Our top imports are coal, fruit, and wool. It's amazing. And here we have diplomacy. Most important tab in the game. So this is probably the most complex tab in the game to explain anyway. So starting off, going from the bottom of the list and going up to probably I think it's Travancore. No, it can't be Travancore. Yeah, going up to... There we go, Transvaal. So, going from the bottom of the list up to the most powerful of that list, you have the uncivilized nations, primitive nations. These nations are the ones that haven't westernized, and they don't get the benefits of being able to talk on the world stage, for instance. They are, generally speaking, nations that need to research to gain the ability to westernize, to develop their nations up to the point where they can get a point on the world stage. Right now, they are literally fair play. You can do what you want with them, you can influence them as you wish, you can make friends with them, you can declare war on them, and most of the world doesn't care. Once they westernize, however, they do become civilized nations, and that's at a certain point, obviously. Civilized nations go from the bottom of the... Sorry, one above the Western civilized nation list to rank 17. If I can find rank 17, would be nice. Here we go. These are civilized nations. These have access to research. They have a kind of a spot on the world stage, in a sense, in that they can kind of make an impression on the major powers, but not much of one. These are states that actually have more importance. So you can deal with them more, but it costs more to deal with them. Moving from that to place 16 up to 9, you have your secondary powers. Secondary powers are nations that they have more of a state power, more place on the world stage. These are nations that can deal with their own affairs, but they also are vulnerable to the great powers. They don't get as many benefits of great power, but they get more benefits than civilized nations. They also get colonial rights. There's colonization in this game. If you have to be either a secondary power or a great power in order to get them. From place 8 to 1, so from us to the United Kingdom, they are considered great powers. Great powers get all the perks, but we also have all the demands. There we go. We can have a sphere of influence, which is, you can see, like, the UK is massive one right here. You can see Austria's one. You can see Prussia's one. Spheres of influence are kind of the first thing you can do. Like, you can influence people to join you. So let's say I want. Let's go in North America, because that's where we are. So let's say I want to influence Texas. Okay. So we're gonna put this up and expend influence on them per day. We get bonuses depending on what's going on. So we get because we're next door to them. And we have relations, we get a bonus, and it's also based on score. You get influence points based on that, and over time you will be able to bring them in to your sphere of influence. The sphere of influence goes from at worst to best: hostile, opposed, neutral, cordial, friendly, in sphere. Once they're in your sphere, they will not go to war with you. They will not deal with other powers as eagerly, but they still will do, in some senses. You can defend them in wars. Half of their internal market becomes your internal market as well. They will defer to you when it comes to wars and such, so you can take over leadership in wars. They will ask you to represent them when it comes to crises, which is something we'll cover later on. What is there? You can also, like, what's the other thing? No, I think that's it. Okay. Obviously, it's kind of a battle between sometimes, like you're seeing, like Europe, that a lot of these guys are like neighbours to France, France, Prussia, the Ottomans, Austria, that sort of thing. If you fall out of great power status, you lose your entire sphere. If you go bankrupt, you lose the sphere. Anything that affects your nations, alliances and such, affects your sphere. But the list of things you can do, if we go back on Texas, are here. Now, these are generally decent. Like, discredit makes so a great power you choose has a slower rate of making influence. Expel advisors reduce it to 0. Ban embassy makes so they can't increase influence for a year, and I think it removes all of their influence as well. Yeah, it does. Increase opinion makes it so they go up a stage. So you go from, let's say, neutral to cordial. Decrease opinion is to decrease another great power's opinion. So I can knock the UK down to opposed, for instance. But I have to be in a better standing than that power, or equal standing. Adds a sphere makes so I can add the country to my sphere of influence if they're not in another sphere, but I need the 100 to get them in there. Remove from sphere, I hope explains itself. You can move from another sphere of influence, or you can remove from your own. So you can have the UK removed from its sphere of influence just to declare war on them. And that can justify a war on people. And that's where things get interesting. This game, you still use CBs as you normally would, but you have to justify them. So I need to go over this list and say, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I want to make an acquire state CB, for instance. It'll take 308 days to make this CB, and it shows here, if we detect early, maximum amount of information we acquire is 11. So when you're making a CB, it's like if you're fabricating a claim in EU4. But instead of aggressive expansion, you gain infamy. Now, it's based on a percentage of how many days are left. So, 308 days to make the CB. Every 30.8 days, we drop 10%. So, this will keep dropping. Infamy is actually very important. It affects everything, like dealings, your nation's consciousness, that sort of thing. However, one thing you really do want to bear in mind is that if you go over 25 infamy, every power in the world, I believe, might just be great powers, gets a containment war CB on you. Now you might be thinking, what's a containment war? Basically, they can demand that you cut your army down to 50% and give them 20% of your income. That's bad. Now, that's all 8 powers. I think all major powers at least get that, all great powers rather. So, you kind of want to be careful with that. If you can see here, we have a number. We can store at most 9 diplomacy points, and every action has a certain amount of points it takes. One last thing to note is that if you have at least 100 relations with a power, so let's say Texas, I cannot justify a war on them because we're too friendly. So I'm actually going to get some guys influenced right now because I have an idea who wants influence. Colombia, and the other one was Venezuela. There we go. So, military tab. We're nearly there, I promise. Military tab is exactly what it says on the tin. You can build an army from your states. We haven't got any spare units, but you can build from here. There's 3 different types of units. Your standard infantry, which is your foot soldiers. Your artillery, which is your cannons, your tanks, that sort of thing. Which are more support troops, so cannons, engineers, and I think it's planes? Yeah, it's planes, okay. And your cavalry, which is generally your cav derivations, and tanks. As you can see, tanks do come in the game, which is, a big thing. You also have navies, which vary in size, but navies are probably the most complex thing in the game. So you go from clipper transports, which are the cheapest to make, to dreadnoughts. These all take up a different amount of force limit. As you can see there, clipper transports take 3, frigates take 9, so on and so forth. Bigger ships take up more on your supply throughput, but they also grant you more colonial power, I think it is. Is it colonial power? Yeah, colonial power. So you do want to kind of balance it between a big navy and a good naval base limit, which I'll explain in a bit. The bigger navy is obviously better because you have more, but then you don't want to go overboard and have a navy that is over your supply limit. There are ways to increase it as we go on. As you can see here, by the way, we have our measures of power, we have our prestige, we have our industrial power, and we have our military power. These are kind of measures of how great a nation we are. These also have secondary effects. Industrial power is obviously how industrial power you are. Some events rely on this. Military power is how great a military you have based on your army and your capital ships. So if you want to artificially deflate this, for some reason, build loads of screen ships. And prestige has a secondary effect. Prestige changes depending, actually affects how high in the queue you get what you want. I know it sounds weird, but it's hard to explain. If you are first in the world, when the goods go on the world market, in prestige obviously, you get your first crack at it. Then it goes down to rank 2. Then it goes down to rank 3. So right now it goes along the list. It goes from the UK. The UK says no, goes to France. If France says no, goes to Russia. Blah 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 blah. It keeps on going through the list. So you kind of do want to keep balancing your prestige and other stuff. You want to actually make sure your internal market can sustain itself, which is probably the most important thing. Hoi, we're nearly there. I think the last thing I actually do need to explain, I'm going to just turn off a couple of these views because there's some stuff I just don't use. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Back. There we go. Okay, that should do it. So, last thing to explain before we do finish this part, and this is going long enough where I would. You fight over states in this game. States are a collection of provinces. They can go from one province to a whole state, a whole selection. So we've got 5 here in Massachusetts. Probably a good thing I chose Massachusetts. No, I can't use Massachusetts. Let's go down to Florida. Is Florida good? No. Okay, let's go. Okay, we'll go to South Carolina. Wow, really? Oh, Georgia. What? That's South Carolina? Huh? That's South Carolina, not Georgia. Okay. Guess it must be just the map limitations. Anyway, so we have here our state of Georgia, even though South Carolina. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it South Carolina because it is. But as you can see here, we have an overview of it. It shows you what the state is, what the name of the province is. If it's a slave state, so this place has slaves. If you're using national focus, admin efficiency, RGO, our resource gathering operation, over here gives us coal, which is sold for £5.732. How much of the population is in the RGO, a percentage of the population, and what's going on. Here is machine politics, which is making the strength party go up. There is loyalty to pies, there is a provincial life rating, that affects colonisation. There is also cultural life overview, ideology, and the workforce. As you can see, we have a lot of slaves here. I won't be surprised most of our population is slave. Nope, 14.1%, that's kind of bad. Wow, Savannah! Holy Christ! Anyway, but we use Charleston for this, just because it's a good place to go. So, we have our population in this province, we have the provincial crime rate in the militancy, that sort of thing. As we move down, however, we get supply limit, we get cores, which explain themselves. We also get the fort, the naval base, and the railroad. Now, forts explain themselves, they affect how long it takes to siege, but it also affects your infantry's ability to dig in that area. If you dig in, you have a better defensive ability if you're attacked. It also, I think, has a minor effect on supply limit. I don't think I have a place I can use to examine that. No, let's use the UK, but I'm not going to go over there. Whatever the case, if it affects how long it takes to siege, it also affects digging efficiency. So the bigger fort, the better. Naval bases affect your colonial range, they also affect your shipbuilding time, and they give you a bigger supply limit. So you generally want to make a bigger naval base as you go along, and keep upgrading them as you go to make a bigger and more effective navy. Building navies requires bigger ships, require a bigger port, requires a bigger shipyard, or as I call them. So you do want to keep expanding these to keep up. Like, you only have one shipyard per state, but still that's very important. Can expand that now. You also have railroads. Railroads are very important because of several things. They put the supply limit out, they put throughput up in the province, they put the RGO up, and they help troops move faster. This is the age of the railway, so the railway will keep on wanting to be upgraded as you go along. So you want to keep that in mind. You can also do shortcuts to build an army and build navies. You can also set rally points and such. And I believe that is everything. If it's not, then I'm screwed because I can't remember anymore. But yeah, so that has been part 0 of Let's Play Victoria 2 as the United States of America. Join me next time when we'll begin the campaign in earnest, and we'll see what we can do. I intend on doing the full game, and I might do more than one game, not at the same time obviously, but we'll see what happens. I've been the Blade of Chaos, you have been you, and I'll see you next time for more in Victoria 2. Thank you for watching, guys. See you next time.